Hi, everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. Delighted on this episode to be talking with comics creator, author DJ Kirkbride. DJ, thank you for jumping in. May I call you DJ? Is that okay?
Oh, of course. And thanks for having me, Jason. May I call you Jason?
Yes, of course, of course.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I know you've had a busy day of work, so thank you for taking some time to talk with me about the world of comics. And as I mentioned, I talked with a collaborator of yours over the summer, Adam Knave, who I think, can I confirm whether or not Adam is a puppet? Is that
Ah,
possible?
he's a puppet with the soul of a man.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
so
just
you
made
did.
some
I
sort
got
of
it.
offhand comment, strangely enough, and ironically enough, about puppets. And he said, "Oh, have you seen that video?" And I was like, "I did not know there was a video. I just said something about puppets." So it was
Oh,
just
that's
one of
so
those moments.
funny. I was wondering. I was like, I had to go watch his interview then if you recorded him. Yeah, he does. He goes on as a puppet sometimes for video
Yes,
calls.
yes, yeah. I think my vision is to have him come on as a puppet, but then I'll have like a digital like polar bear or I don't know, dog or something like that. So it could be like a children's television program gone horribly wrong, or I don't know, something like that. But I
Sounds
know you've
fun.
worked with him on Once and Future Queen as well as Amelia Cole, and I'll also mention Errand Boys, which is a very, very cool series, if I may say.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, that one.
Mhm.
Yeah, we usually co-write, but that one, yeah, Adam and his friend Al, they edited the original series, so he's still there. Even if I'm typing solo, he's still there watching over me.
Nice. Nice. And the bigger boys, I believe I got that title right. Did I get that right?
The It's the Bigger Bang,
The
and
Bigger Bang.
then
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
that's
Yes.
all right.
The Bigger Bang.
Yeah.
So curious about your background as a writer, editor, what it was about comics that sort of pulled you in to say this is the place for my voice.
Well, I mean, in terms of just in comics, I my dad grew up reading them. Like he read all the original, like Marvel stuff, when he was a kid. And so even though he didn't have any of those books, any of those comics, I guess my grandma threw them out after he went to college. She
Mm,
thought they were just, garbage. And it's like, oh my gosh, he had some good stuff. But that's kind of something that we bonded over once I, started reading and got into him. So it was a way to talk to him. And I'll say probably the Christopher Reeve Superman movie
mhm.
was what really hooked me. And then, on like the type of storytelling. And then from there, I went into comics as a reader. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love them. I love reading them. And then in regard to helping create them, um, part of it is just the love of reading them and wanting to kind of be a part of that for someone else. And just always sounded cool to work in comics. And I mean, one of the things I like is that kind of sky's the limit in terms of imagination.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, like certainly something like Errand Boys or The Bigger Bang, those would probably be cost prohibitive, at least, in terms of a live action budget or something.
Mhm.
So that was something that was really fun to me, and also just that I could actually get them made, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I also worked a little bit with I got into screenwriting a little bit and work on long scripts and a lot of back and forth and nothing happened. And then once I got into
Mhm.
comics, I was like, oh, I got like a book I can put on my shelf or like, something I can bag and board and put with my comics I read. I mean, so that was a big part of it too.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. I love a lot of what you said there with like connecting with family, having something that is physically there that comes to be. And then I also appreciate what you said about the Christopher Reeves movies because before this call I was talking with Rick Hoberg and ironically he pointed to the George Reeves Superman. So
Okay.
it's just kind of cool how, we get inspired by films, media, comics, all the things and how it all kind of pours into imagination in one way or another.
Absolutely. And I do think a good story is a good story, kind of
Hmm.
regardless of
Hmm.
the medium. And I love the differences too. Like if ever one of my comics becomes something other than a comic, part of what's fun, and I kind of have seen some people adapt or work on a pitch for one of them and seen how they kind of we were able to see how they change things for a different medium. And I personally appreciate that. Like a movie or TV show is so different than a comic.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I really like seeing those changes or what's picked and what they pick and choose to move around or cut out or expand upon. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to ask about genre and what draws you to create in the genres that you do. I think if I'm remembering from my talk with Adam that I mentioned Amelia Cole as being sort of fantasy, because it's labeled that way. So I don't mean genre in any way as a limiting thing, but just curious about the worlds of fantasy, science fiction, because it seems like that's kind of where you like to play and craft a good bit.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, certainly in comics, my writing there's, I guess it's all been, yeah, sci-fi, fantasy in some way or shape or form. And for me, part of it is it's kind of fun to tell a really personal story, but dress it up as like a big sci-fi epic. So you kind of can work out something that maybe nobody knows you're working out, but that's kind of like that adds the humanity to it. I mean, that's something I've always loved about science fiction. I mean, often a noted one is, I guess, Star Trek. Just how political that show was. And it's always funny when people talk about it being too woke now. I'm like, did you ever watch the original series? Like that was
Right.
they were not subtle. It was really there. So
Yeah.
I've always appreciated that. Yeah, I love using fantasy or sci-fi or whatever or horror even or something just to tell personal stories and maybe not make them autobiographical. Even though I appreciate those too. Like I like a lot of autobiographical comics and stories. But me personally, I like to build that little fantastical wall, I guess.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and that way, even if you're exploring something that's kind of personal, you don't have to pull everything in. There can be play with the boundaries and kind of I feel like science fiction does that so well, like exploring questions in ways that make it possible for unicorns at the same time. And it totally
Absolutely.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So curious about the other part of the story with Once and Future Queen, because I know in working that it's Arthurian, and if I'm remembering correctly, one of the creative team members was really like hardcore King Arthur, like this is the way that this character works. Were you the hardcore person on that, or?
No, I usually use my ignorance as my strength. No, so Adam is really well versed, and then Nick Brokenshire, our artist and co-creator, he's incredibly well versed. So they were kind of the experts, and I was the one who, I know the story. I saw Sword in the Stone as a kid.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
read some of the Once and Future King, and stuff like that. So I know, but I'm not an expert. So what I wanted us to do and what we kind of I like it was a good mix of just kind of using the legend to help inform the story, but then also almost having like my outsider, non-expert perspective. So we don't have to follow all the beats. I don't know all the beats. I'm not going to write them all. I don't know all the,
Right,
so,
right.
but I think that might have loosened us up a little bit because it's not like, but it's in no way a direct adaptation or anything like that. It's just inspired by those legends and stories
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
modern context. So yeah, I think I helped us all get a little loosey goosey.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. And that's so important in creativity too. That way you're not, it's an homage, but it's not a complete by the numbers kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I mean, if I kind of have trouble writing something if I'm a super fan. Like I often get asked, I've been asked, like what comic character would you love to write? Who's your favorite? And those are very different things. Like Superman's my
Hmm.
favorite kind of anything ever, not just comic
Right,
characters,
right.
my favorite. And but I don't know if I really want to write Superman. Like that feels wrong. And also I don't know. I'm afraid I wouldn't enjoy it as much if I kind of
Mm-hmm.
was a part of it. Like I like just enjoying it from the outside. And then there are other things I don't feel that strongly about, but like if I was an Arthurian Legend super fan, I don't know if I could have helped write that book the way I did.
you would have left that sword in the stone.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Now, when I think about that with popular characters too, like there are stories that I love. I'm more on the Batman side, but I also appreciate Superman a lot. But like,
No, I mean, I
it's
love
that
Batman too.
it's that question of like, where would you take that character? You know, what would you change or do? And it's like, I don't want to change anything. In fact,
Right.
bring back Alfred. You know, that kind of
Oh, for sure.
thing.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it's like, and I'm sure, if you're, any writer, I'm sure you could craft a fun Batman story, and I know I could write a pretty fun Superman story,
Hmm.
but I mean, I trust I could if I had, was tasked with it, or was lucky enough for that to happen. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be too beholden, and then yeah, there's something fun about just enjoying it and seeing what other people do, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm. Are there, speaking of stories that you love, are there stories that you revisit or worlds that you revisit to sort of replenish the creativity in a way?
Yeah, I mean, I don't reread as much as I kind of wish I had the time for, but I always feel like there's so much I haven't read that's kind of hard to reread something, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
Um, Even comics. So I've gone through phases, where like I'll break out like my old Claremont Uncanny X-Men from, when they were in Australia in the outback. Like that's when I first started buying it. It's a really weird time for the series, but that was my entry, you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
really fun. But usually for me it's like TV and movies. Again, like the Christopher Reeve Superman, that just gives me hope sometimes, especially like that first one. Just gives me like I get chills watching that movie, um and I really I love Star Trek. I love the original series, Next Gen, the new series. I love Strange New Worlds, Discovery. Those are always fun,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
also Doctor Who a lot of times, like popping in some more from Eccleston on. Like I never really got into the original series, although that's something I would like to do too if I have time, like one of these days. But
Hmm.
that's a show that I just love because that's a freewheeling show, like anything can happen on Doctor Who, and that's really fun to go from like you have a lighthearted episode, then a really dark, scary, sad episode, and then you know a historical romp. And
Hmm.
I find that very inspiring.
Yeah, yeah, love it, love it. And so so speaking of kind of the romps in science fiction and other worlds, anything that you would want to throw out for listeners as far as a tagline for Errand Boys, um, The Bigger Bang, or any series that you would want to say, this is the thing.
Yeah, shoot. I always joke I was really bad about ever coming up with a good way to sell Errand Boys quickly.
The elevator
uh,
pitch, yeah,
yeah, like when I'm
because
at
it's high
conventions.
concept. It's
Yeah.
really a cool series.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that one of the things you know, when we were pitching it and it was on the back of the book, is the only thing stranger than the vastness of space is family or something like that.
Hmm.
But then actually at my day job, I saw a poster for Crazy Rich Asians and realized that's similar to their tagline. I forget what it is, but something like the only thing something than something is family. And I was like, I've never even seen that movie. Was I inspired by that? I don't know. I
Right.
see a poster and like kind of register. And like the Bigger Bang, I like to say the only thing um shoot, what is it? Like all humanity, like our world started off with the Big Bang,
Hmm.
and then this
Hmm.
comics volume two, the Bigger Bang. So I can imagine, and we also did a biggest bang, and I would say the only thing bigger than the biggest, are the only thing. I'm sorry,
You're
I
good.
don't know any
You're
of
good.
these pitches. But no, one of the, I like to pitch the Bigger Bang as kind of like yeah, like there's like a three-part series of humanity, and like we're living in volume one, and then volume two is the Bigger Bang, and then
Hmm.
volume three is the biggest bang. And that's not really a pitch. Well, Amelia Cole, I always pitched it like Buffy meets Harry Potter,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
which Adam never really liked that pitch, but it seems to work, even though both those properties now have negativity on them that what I
Right,
didn't know
right.
or wasn't there when we were doing Amelia. Um,
It worked at the time.
at the time it worked. And the Bigger Bang, I mean the elevator pitch, it's kind of like I look at it, my inspiration for it was like if a mother dies in childbirth and then the child feels guilty about that, even though it's not the child's fault. but there's like, how do you live with that? And the character in The Bigger Bang, his mom was our universe, and his
Mhm,
birth
mhm.
destroyed it. So it's like, how does he, live with that? Basically, I'm not good at pitching. Not good
But
at
the
taglines.
concepts are fascinating.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
okay. Once and Future Queen is a modern reimagining of Arthurian legend with a
Hmm.
young chess prodigy from modern day Portland becoming the true wielder of Excalibur, and Merlin is a ghostly spaceman for some reason.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
one of my pitches.
I like it. I like
Oh, thanks.
it. So, creative directions that you're currently thinking about pursuing, that of course you could talk about. Anything that you would want to mention as far as kind of what's cooking right now.
There are some things like cooking, but they're all on a really low simmer.
Yeah, yeah. Simmer's
Yeah,
good sometimes. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there is something I co-wrote with Adam, and it's being drawn now, but there's nothing to announce yet until, it's further along and we can kind of figure out where we're going to go with it, what we'd like to do with it. But it's fun. Whenever it happens, I think it's going to be a really fun one, for, people who like our work and people who just enjoy fun comics and fun stories.
Mhm. They're always
Thank you.
fun. The collaborations are always fun. It's always interesting. Um, yeah. So looking forward to that and glad to hear that things are simmering.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, thanks for asking. I used to always want to do more, but I've definitely my output slowed down a lot. But I want to make sure whatever I help create is just something that all of us creating it will really enjoy and that readers will enjoy. I just really like this new thing we've been working on is really all about fun. Errand
Awesome.
Boys was a little, even though it's a really fun book, it was a little emotional to create, and
Mhm.
this one's just a romp. That's what I really wanted us to do, and I think we've achieved it.
Nice, nice. I always ask that question about what's next, recognizing that usually people can't talk about it. There's some magic board, and if they say too much, then someone from one of the publishing companies shows up with like a neuralizer or whatever it happens to be. So I always try to be aware of that.
Right. No, no. I mean, it's no publisher stopping me from saying anything. I'm not ready to talk about it yet.
I understand. I
but
understand.
but I hopefully it'll happen. That's my main thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And looking forward to it.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. So you have a website, any other spaces that you'd like to share where you like to connect with folks if they want to follow along and see what's simmering?
I'm on Instagram and Facebook for however long I'm going to stay on those. And I mean, right
Hmm.
now they're mostly, you know, stuff about movies I'm watching and pictures of my cats. But one of these days, hopefully, I'll have stuff to post about a new comic.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Well, anything that we missed in the talk through? I know the episodes are usually pretty brief, so I always like to make sure that you have the chance to say everything that you'd like to share.
Oh no, I mean you haven't missed anything. I've missed how to pitch my comics
Oh, it's
and,
good. It's good.
and talk to humans, but no, that's all good. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I
my
appreciate
pleasure.
you taking the time.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Good to talk with you and glad to have you back on anytime.
Okay, thanks so much. For sure.
Yeah,
Maybe one of these days Adam and I can join together.
that would be
Our
great.
human me and puppet Adam. We'll see how it goes.
And I might be a digital creation of some kind. We'll see. Yeah, yeah,
I
I
like
love
this.
it.
This is a great plan.
Yes, yeah, we will make it happen.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.